Happy generic time of the day, product people. It's Alan Neal here for another quick carcast for the PDM show at the PDM show on Facebook and the Twitters. PDM.show on the web. Just shaking my head today, looking at some of the articles that are coming through my LinkedIn feed. Some of them from people that I really admire and really enjoy. So I'm not going to mention any names or get into any specifics, but the theme for today seemed to be how to scale Agile in 5 steps, which I don't know where to start with that one. First off, why does every post on social media or online have to have a number in it, and specifically a number that's greater than 2 and less than 7? 4 ways to do this, 5 steps to do that, lose 50 pounds in under 6 weeks. Can't and shouldn't sometimes stuff just be hard and take a really long time? Are we really that willing to delude ourselves? But anyways, let's get back to Scaling Agile. This one really confuses me, and I really have a hard time with the logic. And why I have a hard time with the logic is, if you go back to the history and we say, why is there this thing called Agile? Why did 6 or 8 or however many of them people get together in a cabin in Oregon or Vermont or wherever they were and put together this Agile manifesto? They got together because, as technology delivery folks, so again, keep in mind, these weren't product management folks, they were project folks, project management folks, but specifically software project management folks. They were basically saying, listen, over the past 40 years, let's say from the 1960s to the 2000s, I think they were all realizing that we had collectively learned that running very large scale software projects was very difficult, and that the larger the software project, the more difficult it was, and the less predictable it was. And studies since then, numerous studies since then, have borne out that fact. If you have a 3-day, 1-person software project, your chances of getting that software project done by that one person in that 3 days is higher, statistically speaking, than if you have a 30-person software project over 300 days. The chances are, and the statistics say, that there's an almost 100% likelihood that 300-person that 30-person 300-day software project is going to be late, probably by at least 50%, but could be late by several orders of magnitude, and over budget as well. So these were the experiences and the collective wisdom, like I say, from the 1960s to the 2000s, that all of these guys like Kent Beck and Ken Schwaber and all of these guys had floating around in their heads and in their collective consciousness when they got together to create the Agile Manifesto. So, while they don't say it, they don't come out and say it, really, if you look at the Agile Manifesto, what they're really getting at is a fundamental principle that smaller is easier. Smaller is more predictable. Smaller is more doable. So I think even though they don't say that, what they're really saying, with the Agile Manifesto and the real spirit of Agile, is smaller allows us to move faster with more confidence and more predictability. And business likes predictability. And you see this in other domains as well. Going back, forget about 40 years from the 60s to the 2000s. Go back thousands of years in human history. If you read, for example, The Art of War by Sun Tzu, he talks in there about the fact that if you are small and your opponent is large, then the benefit, the unique strength that you want to take advantage of is your quickness. So, and that's a several thousand-year-old text. So humanity has known that small equates to nimble, equates to fast, and generally speaking, although I'm sure there's exceptions to this, large equates to slow and sluggish, but obviously with more power. So what I'm getting at there is, I think we can all agree that it's the winter Olympics right now. So, for example, I think we can all agree that we would not want to use a bulldozer to go through a ski slalom exercise. That to go through a slalom type of environment, when they're trying to crisscross through those flags, that requires nimbleness, requires agility in the original meaning of the term. And therefore, if your goals that you're trying to get to is speed, nimbleness, agility, flexibility, then small is best for that. And if you look at a lot of the skiers that are going through those slaloms, and I'm just using this because I'm wearing my Team Canada jersey. It's the Winter Olympics. If you look at those, they tend to be smaller and faster people. You don't see, a Hulk Hogan, an Andre the Giant, a bodybuilder, the Incredible Hulk. You don't see those larger framed, people doing those exercises. It's just not the right tool for the job. So now we come back to scaling agile. Well, if we agree that we originally came to the idea that we should have a philosophy called agile, and that will allow us to, break projects down into smaller and smaller chunks, to increase our flexibility, to reduce our risk, and increase our predictability, then why are we trying to scale it? I don't understand. It's like it's like if I went out and bought a Porsche sports car because I wanted to drive really quickly through the winding mountain roads of Austria or something like that, and then I say, oh, this Porsche is pretty good for navigating these really twisty turny mountain roads. Let's I wonder if we can scale this. I wonder if I put a big trailer on the back of this thing, and I wonder if I can start using it to move myself across the country. Or what if I put I wonder if I could take my Porsche and I wonder if I could put a big snowplow on it, so that in addition to using it to slalom through the twisty turny mountain roads of Austria at speed, that I can also clear my driveway and clear my neighbors' roads when the snow falls. It's not the right tool for the job. But for some reason, we have this need, this desire, this obsession with taking something and trying to bend it and make it something else. And you know, a guy who I really think was good at resisting this was Steve Jobs. You know, if you look at what Steve Jobs, when he came back to Apple and turned Apple around, you know, Apple was kind of trying to do that at the time, right? They were trying to basically make a computer that that would do everything and be all things to all people. And Steve very quickly put an end to that, and I think he famously drew like 3 boxes on a whiteboard and said, "Listen, we're going to do a home device, we're going to do a work device, and I don't know, the third might have been like a small home office type of device." But anyway, he was famous for saying that, you know, there are tasks in life for which we need cars, and there are tasks in life for which we need trucks. And if you have a job that you need a truck for, like moving your kids, let's say across the country, you know, let's say you live on the East Coast, your kid moves out, they're going to college out on the West Coast, you don't want to use your Porsche sports car for that. You want to use a truck. That hasn't stopped, you know, tons and tons of people of trying to come up with the ultimate, you know, Porsche moving truck, so to speak. But Steve was really good at that way. He would resist that. You know, another quick example, you know, tablets, right? As soon as tablets came out, oh, tablet's kind of cool. You know, I want to buy a tablet instead of a laptop. But as soon as I buy that tablet instead of that laptop, I'd like to have a keyboard on my tablet. And I wonder, you know, my tablet's got Bluetooth. I wonder if I could have a mouse on that as well. And you know what? I need more expansion ports on my tablet so I can plug an external monitor into it and a bigger hard drive. And they want to turn their tablet into a laptop, or even worst case, into like a desktop computer. And, you know, it's not what it was designed for. So my whole message to all of these folks that are trying to scale Agile is, why can't we let Agile be the methodology for doing very small, fairly simple projects? And I think, you know, we haven't even talked about the idea, but I think really what Agile was created for was for discovery type projects, for projects where the outcome, you know, what we're trying to achieve was not even yet defined. So it was come up with as an approach to say, listen, let's do some incremental discovery because we don't even know what our requirements are. Well, now we're in a situation, I forget the exact dates, but let's say it's 2018 now. Let's say, I don't know, let's say for argument's purposes, we've been doing Agile for 15 years. It's probably longer than that, but let's say in the general, you know, in the general business person's mind, you know, Agile is been doing it for about 15 years. You know, now we're starting to look at Agile and say, how can we apply this to very large portfolios of projects where the desired outcomes are fairly well understood, where you know, we don't need to do much discovery, but because Agile is the cool and latest methodology, we're going to use Agile. Why can't we, you know, keep Agile in its place as the, hey, I'm not really sure even what I want to build, so I need a really experimental, you know, type of framework that will allow me to figure it out as I go along. You know, kind of like a Lego kit, you know, for a project management Lego kit. You know, I don't even know what I'm trying to do. And then why not have, you know, the equivalent of the trucks, the bulldozers, you know, I don't know what's bigger than a bulldozer, but, you know, some of these large earth movers, I guess, that you see in the tar sands pits. You know, why not use a different project management methodology for those different projects? Why do we have to scale Agile? Because in trying to scale Agile, what's going to happen is it's not going to work, right? When I try to, move my kid across the country using my Porsche sports car, it's going to be a bad experience, and that's going to create a bunch of bad will and a bunch of negativity around the Porsche car, and it's not founded. You're using something for a manner that it was not intended. And the same thing's going to happen with Agile. We're going to try to scale it for larger and larger and bigger projects. It is going to fail, and we're going to find ourselves back in the exact same situation, asking ourselves, or saying to ourselves, well, Agile's not good. We need another approach. And, I recommend we go back to the original insights that led to Agile in the first place, which is the problem is not your project management framework or methodology. The problem is, hey, maybe people and the organizations that are comprised of people, maybe there is a limit to the complexity and size and scope of projects that people can reliably and predictably complete, on budget and on time. And I think that was the insight. So why don't we go back to that, and why don't we try to work as a premise, from there, and why don't we come up with, just like we have the notion of a sports car, why don't we say, yep, Agile is our sports car, and then why don't we come up with another class, just like we've done with automobiles? So we came up with a class of automobiles called trucks, and we came up with several subclasses of trucks. Like we have, pickup trucks, which are smaller in scale, good for the homeowner or small business person, needs to lift a few things. And then we have transport, or what's sometimes called tractor trailer trucks, when we need to move large amounts of goods across the country. And on and on. We have these huge, super scale earth moving trucks that you see in tar pits and gravel pits, that are designed to just carry, massive amounts of debris and earth. For doing that, we came up with tools, vehicles designed to do that. Why do we have to try to scale? And maybe a better analogy would be a motorcycle, right? Imagine you've got a motorcycle, and then you hit the problem that, motorcycle's fine. Let's say when it's you and your partner or your spouse. Motorcycle can carry two people. One person has to sit behind the other. Let's say a third person comes along, right? Let's say you have a child. Okay, you can add a sidecar to the motorcycle, and you've probably seen, these sidecars. Okay, what if our family gets bigger than that? What if we have two more children plus a dog? Now what are we going to do? Are we just going to try to add a bigger sidecar? Are we going to try to stretch, are we trying to try to scale the motorcycle? We're going to make it longer so that basically we just have a longer seat, so that you can have 8 people sitting one behind the other person on a motorcycle. Anyways, I'll wrap this rant up with another hilarious example I found of this, which is, if you've ever played the board game Twister that came out, I think it was launched by Milton Bradley in 1966. It's basically a rubber mat, and the idea is, and it's I looked up right in the original Twister game book rules. They have guidelines for how you can play with 2 people, with 3 people, or with 4 people. And beyond 4, what they do is they suggest that you break into teams. So you've got a game there where the scale is kind of built into the fun of the game. The fun is, 2, 3, or 4 people. It's called twister because you get on the mat and you're trying to put your limbs cover each of the colors. So you're trying to touch 2 red squares with each of your feet, and then with your hand, your opponent's trying to touch the blue squares, and it's fun, and it's fun because of its scale. Its scale is part of what makes it an enjoyable, goofy, break the ice kind of experience. So of course I went online and I looked up the Guinness Book of World Records, and of course there are people out there who have taken thousands of these twister mats. I think the record was like over 2,000 of them, laid them beside each other to basically make this twister mat that was larger than a football field. And obviously you need at least hundreds of people out there. And is it still twister? Does it still offer the same benefits, solve the same problem, deliver the same experience? It's not. It's ridiculous. It's doing something just because you can do it. But how I kind of close that thought out of my own mind is, it's like one of my favorite lines from the movie, from the original Jurassic Park, where Jeff Goldblum says, "Listen, you guys were so busy feeling so good about how smart you were to see whether you could recreate, relaunch dinosaurs, bring dinosaurs back into reality." He said, "You were so obsessed with whether you could do it, you never thought about whether you should." And of course, what he's getting to is, they bring the dinosaurs back to life, and then of course the dinosaurs, kill and eat everybody. And this whole idea of scaling agile to me seems to be the exact same thing. We're going to take something that's beautiful at the scale that it was designed for, and part of its beauty and its elegance is the scale that it was designed at. The Porsche car is beautiful because it's a 2-seater. That its scale is part of its beauty. Making it a 10 or 12-seater wrecks it. It doesn't extend the benefits and multiply the benefits of the Porsche experience. It just destroys it. It's no longer a Porsche. And I'm predicting here that the same thing's going to happen with Scaling Agile. They're just going to wreck it. We're going to forget that Agile used to be something beautiful. It used to be something small, very focused, purpose-built, elegant. Used to be the best at what it did, and now it's just something else that we've stretched and pushed and broken, and now nobody likes it anymore. Anyway, long rant tonight, just because I'm really getting tired of reading these articles. But Alan Neal for the Product Management Show, at the PDM Show on Twitter and Facebook, pdm.show on the web. And sorry for the long rant there, but just had to get that off my chest. Let's not try to scale Agile. Agile is beautiful at the scale that it's at. It's a beautiful, beautiful approach to a discovery-based, to an exploratory approach to trying to figure out what it is that your stakeholders need. It's a beautiful approach, but let's not try to turn it into some Frankenstein monster by going from the the recommended 3 to 5 Agile or Scrum team participants to say, well, if it's good with 3 to 5 team members, how can we make it work for 5,000? Because we have 5,000 on my team. Let's not do that. Let's leave it. Let's admire its beauty for what it is, and let's invent something else for the 5,000 person projects. Alan Neal at the PDM Show, pdm.show on the web, and rant over. Thanks.